There are a lot of difficult things to be fans of in this world. The Mets, the current New England Patriots, isekai anime, but one of the most difficult things to be a fan of in the modern day anime and manga scape has been Hunter x Hunter. Not because it's controversial or poorly written or because the ending is bad. We unfortunately haven't really got to see what the ending is like. The only ending we've been given was over Twitter, and it was basically Togashi saying, "I'm probably gonna die before I finish this manga. Here, take this one." So I guess actually the ending might be bad. No, the reason it's been so incredibly difficult to be a Hunter x Hunter fan in the last couple of years is because, well, there hasn't been a whole lot of Hunter x Hunter to be a fan of. In fact, last time that we were getting weekly uploads of Hunter x Hunter in any capacity whatsoever was 2 years ago, in October 2022. However, all of that has changed, because as of Sunday, October 6th, we are now receiving weekly Hunter x Hunter again. Now, what does this mean for us? Does this mean that Hunter x Hunter is dead for good? Does it mean that we're gonna see the ending of this story? Or does it just mean that we're gonna get another 10 chapters and have to wait another 2 years to see 10 more? Well, unfortunately, I don't really have the answer to that. And nobody has the answer to that outside of Togashi and maybe his wife. We know that Togashi wants this story done as badly as we want it done from Togashi. But as to whether or not that means he's actually going to be able to complete it, we genuinely cannot say. However, what I can say is that Chapter 401 is the best chapter of Hunter x Hunter that Togashi has produced in a long time. Not only in art direction, but also a storytelling direction. In fact, it feels as though the entirety of the Hunter x Hunter fandom is in agreement with me in this take. Everybody who read Chapter 401 fully agrees that we haven't seen artwork this good from Togashi, who has notoriously not a great art style in a long time, which seems to imply, at least to me, that he might be feeling a little bit better. See, because what ails Togashi is not something like a chronic illness or a mental disease. No, it's his back. Specifically his back and his shoulder from years of being hunched over drawing. And so his dedication in this chapter to make some of the most gorgeous panels I've seen in Hunter x Hunter's manga ever, which, low bar, but still, seems to imply, to me at least, that he might be feeling just a smidge better. But I don't want to speculate that. I'd rather focus this video on the things that I know. Because today, instead of wondering whether or not we're going to see Chapter 402 or Chapter 410 or Chapter 500, today I want to talk about Chapter 401. If we're being entirely real with ourselves, the majority of Hunter x Hunter fans out there not only don't fully understand the Secession Contest arc, mostly because it's been broken up to be releasing over the last 5 or so years, but the majority of Hunter x Hunter fans probably haven't read Hunter x Hunter in so long that reading Chapter 401 is kind of like jumping into a book that you know nothing about halfway through. So today I want to break down Chapter 401, who the characters were, what their allegiances were, and make it as easily digestible for the Hunter x Hunter fan trying to get back into this gorgeous story as possible. Now, we also are going to be filming a video breaking down everything that happened in the last 10 chapters that were released by Togashi 2 years ago, but we're going to be doing that after this one. Why, you ask? That seems kind of discontinuous. Also, Nick, where are you? Well, my best friend's getting married, and also my editor was at a car show showing off his car. I'm human, I have things come up. My editor hasn't had a break in like 4 years, so he has things come up. So yeah, we're releasing this video a little bit late. And yeah, we should have done everything you need to know about Hunter x Hunter a couple of days ago, but life happened. But with no further ado, let's get into, and boy oh boy am I excited to say these words out loud, in Chapter 401 of Hunter x Hunter Explained. But before we get to explaining anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you want to see me try to bring real-life challenges to the anime world, go ahead and follow the brand new channel that I created with Stephen T, Chris Barnett, and Danny Mata called Anime IRL. Or if you just want to hear me talk about anime and manga, go ahead and follow my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime and manga this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But before we get into all that, say we got to talk about our favorite recurring sponsor to the page, BetterHelp. Listen, while this job might seem like a lot of fun, it is uniquely stressful. I now currently manage 4 YouTube channels, which is a lot, but it's something I did to myself. And I did it because I love the game, and I love making as much free content as I can for you guys. However, unfortunately, I definitely have some difficulties pumping out as much content as I do, especially if it's not doing well. See, when things don't do well, I begin to attach my self-worth to my own success, and I enter this downward spiral until eventually I get another dopamine hit of a successful video. However, fortunately,
unfortunately, this is where BetterHelp has come into play for me. See, because with the help of BetterHelp and the licensed therapist that I've been connected to, I found ways to positively reinforce my mental health. All things that have nothing to do with work, like appreciation of the house I live in, the girlfriend I have, the dogs I have. And that's all because that's exactly what BetterHelp was designed to do: connect you with a licensed therapist. Usually in less than 48 hours. All you have to do is fill out a questionnaire, telling BetterHelp about what you're struggling with and what kind of therapist you're looking for. And because of the questionnaire, whatever licensed therapist you're connected with is going to have experience dealing with people with problems like yours. However, if you feel as though the fit isn't great, you can always switch therapists at no extra costs and no extra hassle. And staying in touch with whatever therapist you choose is as easy as it gets. Whether it's messaging, phone calls, or video calls, any way you want to stay connected with your therapist, you can. So what are you waiting for? Allow for BetterHelp to connect you with a therapist tailored exactly to your needs, all from the comfort of your home. So go to betterhelp.com/weebcommander, click the link in my description, or use code weebcommander at checkout to enjoy a special discount during your first month of BetterHelp. We all struggle. It's about time we start working on it.
So chapter 401 starts off where chapter 400 left off. Kind of. At the ending of chapter 400, we see Long He meeting with Kurapika, saying, I don't need divination. Will you sign our contract? I can already use Nen. To which Kurapika says, yes, I will work with the 5th prince. So for those of you who don't remember, Long He is a royal guard servant of the 5th prince Tupepa. Long He wasn't the only guard sent to Kurapika. Mayor, a guard also from Tupepa, was sent alongside Long He. But a lot of you who were probably like me when you were reading this chapter were like, wait, why are they even with Kurapika in the first place? Well, Kurapika, in a play to level the battlefield of the royal contest succession arc and also postpone the killing of a lot of princes, decided to do a 2-week class on the teaching of Nen for any royal guards that princes wanted to send. Now he did this because some of the guards and some of the princes already had access to Nen, and in a battle between Nen users and non-Nen users, the Nen users are going to win 100 times out of 100. And since Kurapika's goal in the succession contest arc is to stalemate the battle between all the princes, leaving as many princes alive by the time that the Black Whale gets to the new continent, because if there's enough princes alive by the time that the Black Whale gets to its destination, then the next prince will simply be elected through a vote, as opposed to enough princes needing to die until eventually there's just one left. Now, Mayor and Long He went to Kurapika's 2-week Nen class with the specific intentions to get him to sign a contract to ally himself with Tupepa, as Prince Tupepa also believes that a stalemate is the best way to go about the succession contest arc. She is a pacifist. Now, during this 2-week Nen training course, a couple of things go pretty wrong. For the first week, Kurapika just makes all the students repeat the same exercises. Some people get mouthy with Kurapika, a bunch of Nen snakes appear and murder one of the guards of Prince Miriam, I believe, and so on and so forth. And therefore, people begin to believe that Prince Wapple and Kurapika are actually just trying to invite as many guards into their room 1014, keep them busy with sham exercises of learning Nen, and slowly but surely pick them off. However, the suspicions aren't only launched at Kurapika and Team Prince Wapple, as guards like Furikov believe that Long He was actually responsible for the attacks on the other guards with the snakes. Now, Furikov believes this because Furikov can already use Nen, and therefore Furikov can see that Long He is also a secret Nen user. And considering the fact that the snakes that have been attacking the guards were made out of Nen, Furikov rather astutely assumes that the other Nen user in the room is the person picking guards off. And thus the chapter opens with Long He entering room 1014 to do her water divination test, and to find out what kind of Nen user she is. And that's where chapter 400 leaves us off with. Kind of like with a truncated, summarized version of what was going to happen in this chapter. And thus the chapter opens with Long He entering room 1014 and Furikov wondering, oh, the secret Nen user. I wonder what she's going to do. Is she going to reveal herself when she enters into this room with Kurapika? It'd be nice if she kamikazed herself and killed Prince Wapple, which is actually a really good deduction by Furikov. Like, considering where this chapter goes, that's like basically exactly what her role is supposed to be, kamikazeing the prince. But anyways, when Long He enters the room, she reveals to Kurapika and the rest of Prince Wapple's guards that are helping Kurapika with his Nen training that she doesn't need divination and that she can use Nen already, and thus she produces her Nen ability. And by producing her Nen ability, which is known as Moonlight Axe, she proved that the Nen snakes that have been attacking guards were not her own. See, because her Nen technique, Moonlight Act, is a conditional manipulative technique. Manipulation isn't all that compatible with conjuration, which the snake Nen technique would be. She would only, too, as a pure manipulator, be able to use conjuration Nen techniques at a 60% level of efficiency. Long He reveals that if somebody signs her her Moonlight Axe, she's able to not only grant them powers, but also restrict their actions. And this is kind of the true power of her technique. It's highly conditional and it requires a lot of explanation, but the contracts that it's able to make are incredibly binding and can either help or restrict either her allies or enemies. See, because it's at this point that Longhi reveals to Kurapika that she wants Prince Wapol and Prince Tupeppa to work together. And in order for them to work together and for her Nen technique to work at its highest level of efficiency, she needs to explain the true plan. She can't leave anything out in the explanation of how her Nen technique works or how she wants this contract to work. And only if Kurapika voluntarily signs this contract will it work. However, Longhi reveals that not only does Prince Tupeppa not know that she has this Nen ability, but also doesn't know that she can use Nen in the first place, and therefore Longhi is simply pulling out this contract now in fulfillment of what her true plan is. This essentially tells us that Longhi is acting independently of Prince Tupeppa's will. But not really, because Prince Tupeppa wanted an alliance with Prince Wapol, so the way that Longhi goes about it is kind of up to her. Now, Kurapika goes, interesting. Well, let's see if you're lying, and pulls out his dowsing chain. But that's not all he pulls out. He also pulls out the Blicky. And after pulling out the Mousketoon, he says, well, if you're lying, I'll just kill you. To which Longhi pretty coldly responds by saying, you can't kill a Nen user with a 22. And it's like, come on, Kurapika, up your caliber. And Longhi continues by saying, listen, my entire goal here is to explain everything that I know to you. In fact, I want to grant you additional powers, so I have to let you know everything that I know about everything. And thus Kurapika rather appropriately asks, okay, what's your true plan? Which Longhi responds by saying, well, first I should tell you the true plans of him. You see, I am the daughter of Beyond Netero. See, to this point, the Longhi reveals to us that 30 years ago, Beyond Netero had a series of children, and he talked a series of families into adopting these children. See, essentially, Beyond Netero abused the position of power he was in the Kakin Empire and talked a bunch of military families in the Kakin Empire, that is to say, the families of soldiers, into adopting the slew of children that he was creating, with women all across the Kakin Empire. And Longhi believes that every single time a new Kakin prince was born, there's 14 of them to remind you, that Beyond Netero would go out, have a child, and then give that child to a military family, knowing that that military family would raise that child up and enter them into the Royal Military Academy, making that child into a soldier. And the reason that all of them were slowly but surely being made into soldiers is because Beyond Netero knew that soldiers would be hand-selected to be the guards of the princes in a succession contest. And thus, if Beyond had as many children as possible guarding all of the princes, he would be able to control the ebb and flow and the direction of the succession contest. And Longhi goes on to describe to us that getting through the military academy was incredibly easy because all of Beyond Netero's children, at least the ones that survived, had Nen from the moment that they were born. Now, Longhi reveals that she is the only one of Beyond Netero's children who knows that she's Beyond Netero's child, and therefore she's the only one of Beyond Netero's children who knows what their true purpose in the succession contest arc is. See, because Longhi reveals, even though she found out that she was Beyond Netero's child, who was raised by a family that weren't her parents, that she still had love for Beyond, because her parents had love for Beyond and his cause of world unity under the power of the Kakin Empire. And as her parents were a military family, mind you, they were very patriotic. And thus, even though Longhi understood that her family circumstance was odd, she never held any hatred for Beyond Netero, or even for what he was planning. However, Longhi eventually found out the reason she was able to use Nen from the moment of her birth is because Beyond Netero placed an attack on her as a baby, a Nen-based attack. Now, for those of you who don't remember, there's a couple of ways to awaken yourself to Nen. Some people awake to it naturally, like Machi, while other people have their Nen auras opened forcefully. And this can either happen in the capacity of training, like what happened with Gon and Killua, or under the guise of an attack. See, if somebody who's unable to use Nen is hit with a Nen-based attack, it forcefully opens all of their Nen auras. And if these Nen pores are open and the person hit with them doesn't know how to close them, they'll slowly or very quickly begin to leak all of the Nen out of their body, and since Nen is life force, they'll die. Now, this is why Gon and Killua had to learn Nen prior to going to floor 200, because people on floor 200 of Heaven's Arena would be able to use Nen against them, open all of their Nen aura nodes, and then boom, they'd be dead, assuming they weren't able to close them by themselves, which is why they needed wings. So what Longhi is revealing to us here is that Beyond Netero attacked each and every single one of his children with a Nen-based curse. See, Longhi reveals to us that another one of her siblings, another one of Beyond Netero's children, became suspicious of her parents when she, after graduating from the military academy, was assigned to the protection detail of the second queen, because of the ruling that the bodyguards guarding the princes and the queens didn't have to be soldiers, and in fact could be anybody, for a ploy that allowed for Pariston to get basically whoever he wanted on the Black Whale. It meant that this sibling of Longhi, whose name is Makaha, would no longer be protecting the second queen. And in fact, the people who would be protecting the second queen were the have-nots. Now, the have-nots in the Kakin Empire are people from the lowest caste, people who aren't able to hold public office or a military position. However, when the succession contest arc was announced and it was revealed that anybody could be a prince's bodyguard, the second prince, who comes from the second queen, Camilla, decided to elect a bunch of have-nots to join her special forces of protection. And thus, a lot of the soldiers from the Royal Military Academy who would have usually protected Camilla got fired, essentially. Now, Makaha, who was Longhi's sibling through Beyond Netero, was one of these students from the Royal Military Academy who got fired. However, Makaha realized something suspicious. See, her parents, who had raised her entire life to try and live up to Beyond Netero's dream, weren't disappointed when she got fired from protecting Camilla. And thus, it was after the seed urn ceremony that both Longhi and Makaha realized that something was wrong with them, that a mark had appeared under their tongue. And it's while describing this mark under Longhi's tongue that we get some of the most gorgeous panels we've gotten from Togashi in a long time. It's panels like this that make you realize, oh yeah, Togashi doesn't need to write shonen. He can absolutely write horror manga. But the Nen Exorcist, who was looking at these two marks on these two siblings, told them that they were a strong curse sacrifice, that the curse that Beyond Netero placed on them as babies listed them as a sacrifice to be used in a kamikaze-like attack against a prince of the Kakin Empire, that they, as strong curse sacrifices, were chosen to curse a target to death the cost of their own life. And thus Longhi realizes that Beyond Netero must have prepared dozens, if not hundreds, of children with the hopes of making just enough strong curse types. As Longhi anticipates that there's also weak curse sacrifices that may not have the ability to kill some of the stronger princes. And thus, because Beyond Netero couldn't be certain of the amount of princes that would be involved in the succession contest arc, that he must have had a lot of children and cursed them all. But here's the thing, Longhi and the rest of her siblings, who are undoubtedly the guards of some of the other princes, don't know about this curse, or even who they're supposed to curse, as Longhi and her sister, who was suspicious of her parents, are the only people who ever identified this curse and what it actually is. See, Longhi goes on to state that because Beyond Netero didn't make any moves after Makaha was removed from the guard duty of Camilla, that Beyond Netero doesn't necessarily know what prince is supposed to be cursed by what child. And therefore, Beyond Netero is simply playing the numbers game, kind of hoping that the right child bumps into the right prince. Which is why Longhi goes on to elaborate that there are over 10 strong curse type users and about 14 princes, and that the numbers are too convenient for Beyond Netero not to be trying to influx the direction of the succession contest. And it's revealed by Kurapika's right-hand man, whose name I genuinely don't remember, flame hair guy, that most likely if Beyond Netero left it up to chance that the correct children would bump into the correct princes and curse them to death, that would actually increase the Nen curse's ability and strength. And this makes sense because everything we know about Nen is that the more risk is involved with your Nen technique, the stronger that it is. Now, this laissez-faire way of killing princes makes Kurapika believe, oh, Beyond Netero must be trying to make sure that the first prince, Benjamin, is the successor. Longhi says there's no way that's the case. See, my father is meticulous and conniving. There's no way he would go through this amount of effort for somebody unrelated to him. And this is when it's revealed that Togashi has been taking us for a ride the entirety of the succession contest. See, Longhi drops the absolute bomb on us that one of the princes must be Beyond Netero's child. And this is when Togashi looks at us and says, well, this is why you pay attention to syntax, sentence structure, and what I said, because everybody in the room looks over to the 8th queen who was in the room with them, the mother of Wapple, and they ask her, can you run the rules of the succession contest back to us? To which she responds by saying that all participants must be natural-born children of the legal wives of the king of the Kakhin Empire. Yes, that's right. They need to be born to a lawful wife of King Nasubi. It says nothing about whether or not they need to be King Nasubi's child. Now, to this point that everybody outside starting to get suspicious of how long it's taking Long Hee to do her water divination test, and honestly, that's fair. They've been chatting for a couple of minutes. Kurapika pops back outside and says, everything's fine. There's no fight. We're just chatting. And goes back into the room with Long Hee with the blicky, and they continue their conversation. Now, to this point that Long Hee has basically revealed everything that she knows or wants to reveal to Kurapika in order to get him to sign this contract. And therefore, it's revealed that the contract is simply an agreement between Prince Tupepa and Prince Otto and his mother, Queen Oyota? Oyota? There's so many names, man. It's alphabet soup out here. Let's see. It's Queen Oito? Whatever. The contract states that Prince Wapol and Prince Tupepa will work together for a week, and that they will not interfere with or attack each other. And the contract will renew itself automatically if by the end of the week, one representative from Prince Tupepa comes to room 1014 again. And this contract will continuously renew itself under those rules until either Beyond Netero's child, who is one of the princes, is identified, or there are only two princes left. And thus, essentially, what this contract is stating is that Prince Tupepa's team and Prince Wapol's team will not interfere with each other until they find the identity of Beyond Netero's child, or if it boils down to just Prince Tupepa and Prince Wapol. And should either of the two of them interfere with each other while under this contract, they'll be forced into a week of Zetsu, meaning that the second they break out of this contract, all Nen users will no longer be able to use Nen, meaning that the Nen users on the other side would be able to eradicate them fairly simply. Now, Long Hee has one final stipulation, and that stipulation is that Prince Tupepa is able to cancel the contract whenever she wants. Because this is a slightly disadvantageous contract to Prince Wapol's team, Long Hee additionally stipulates that if Team Wapol goes through with this contract, that Kurapika will be granted a one-time use of the Moonlight. To which Kurapika realizes, well, it's a highly conditional ability, but it could come in use down the line. On top of this, Kurapika realizes that his dowsing chain has not moved, and thus she hasn't lied, and so he decides to sign the contract. As Long Hee tells the rest of Team Wapol that the second they identify Beyond Netero's child amongst the princes, that it's Long Hee's duty to kill them herself, which pretty much sets the precedent that Team Tupepa and Team Wapol aren't really against each other. They're both trying to do the same thing, and that's undermine Beyond Netero. And after the contract is signed between Kurapika and Long Hee, they both leave room 1014. And Furikov begins to speculate about what went down in that room, whether they had a battle of Nen or whether they actually did sign the contract that Kurapika stated that they did. See, because Kurapika, when he leaves room 1014 with Long Hee, states that the reason it took so long is because they were talking about a truce between Team Wapol and Team Tupepa, being incredibly truthful, deciding not to lie. And this makes Furikov believe that a contract being signed between Team Wapol and Team Tupepa strengthens the position of the third and fifth princes. Furikov is sick of all the scheming as a guard of Prince Benjamin because he knows that Prince Benjamin is one of the strongest princes in the entirety of the succession contest arc and also has one of the strongest positions as the prince of the first queen. Anyways, after all of the politicking, we cut in the last page of this chapter to Beyond Netero, who's in prison, mind you. In a prison guarded by the Zodiacs, so pretty much Rikers Island. And in this final page, we see Beyond Netero asking for an additional book from the Tiger Zodiac, who isn't the mole inside of the Zodiacs. That was the Monkey Zodiac. Two of them finish with an unfriendly exchange that accomplishes nothing, and therefore Beyond Netero says, can you set up a meeting for me? I want to talk to somebody. And with that, the first chapter that we've gotten from Hunter x Hunter in 2 years ends. And wow, is there a lot to digest here. See, Beyond Netero has always been a mysterious creature that we knew next to nothing about. We never fully understood his motivations, we didn't know what he was trying to accomplish, but we did know he was powerful. But now we understand that he's trying to indirectly control the Kakhin Empire, which he wants to control the entirety of the Dark Continent. And so, just like Netero, he's powerful, and he aspires for a lot. Now, I understand that just breaking down Chapter 401 and reintroducing you to some names isn't enough to make some people understand or remember what's going on in Hunter x Hunter. And my setup is currently about as janky as it gets. So when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to film a video breaking down what happened in the last 10 chapters that Togashi posted 2 years ago, to remind you of things like the backstory of the Phantom Troop, what's happening with the Hai Li family, how the Shiro and the Shar-R play into this, what's going on with the Zodiacs, and so much more. But if in the the meantime you're trying to remember what exactly happened in the Succession Contest arc, go ahead and click the video right up here. I did a breakdown 2 years ago when the new chapters of Hunter x Hunter were coming out, telling everybody exactly what happened in the Succession Contest arc up until the releasing of those 10 chapters. So between that video, the video I'm going to make tomorrow, and this video, you'll have everything that you need to know about Hunter x Hunter's Succession Contest arc. Its densest and most confusing arc. But with all that, I need to get to a wedding after party, and I smell currently, so I got some things to figure out on my own. But I'm curious to hear from you guys. What did you think about this chapter? What do you think about the Succession Contest arc as a whole? And are you happy Hunter x Hunter is back? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, thanks for me. Like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I'm to go wash my hands.